The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the excited chatter of 1,000 different species. Representatives from across the known galaxy had gathered for what many considered the most important meeting in 10,000 years. High above the curved walls, holographic displays showed star maps, trade routes, and most importantly, a small yellow star system on the outer rim of the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrex Empire stood tall on his 6 legs, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the chamber's light. As the current council speaker, he commanded attention when he raised his primary manipulator arm for silence. The chatter died down to whispers, then complete quiet. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Zethkar began, his translator converting his harmonic speech into the common tongue, "we have gathered to discuss the human problem. For too long, this young species has been allowed to expand unchecked. They have claimed 17 star systems, established colonies on 43 worlds, and their fleet grows stronger each cycle." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Krell delegation, with their serpentine bodies coiled around floating platforms, hissed their approval. The machine intelligence of the Nexus Coalition blinked approval patterns in binary light. Even the peaceful Eldorans, who rarely spoke in council sessions, seemed to nod their massive heads in agreement. But in the far corner of the chamber, an ancient voice spoke up. "You forget the warnings, young ones." The voice was barely a whisper, yet somehow it carried to every corner of the massive space. All eyes turned to see an archivist, one of the oldest beings in known space, slowly making his way forward. The archivists were living libraries, beings so old that they remembered when most current species were still discovering fire. This one, known simply as Keeper, had been present at the founding of the Galactic Council itself, over 50,000 years ago. His body was more energy than matter now, a shimmering form that hurt to look at directly. "What warnings, Honored Keeper?" Zethkar asked, though his tone suggested he was merely being polite. "Surely you don't mean the old myths about the Terran system?" Keeper's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Myths? Child, I was there when those warnings were first recorded. I helped carve them into the Eternal Archive. The humans come from Earth, the 3rd planet of Sol. That system was marked as forbidden for good reason." The chamber erupted in discussion. Many had heard vague stories about restricted zones in the outer rim, but most dismissed them as superstition. The galaxy was vast, and old legends rarely held much truth. General Throck of the Hegemony military stood up, his massive frame towering over nearby delegates. "With respect, Archivist, we cannot base current policy on ancient fears. The humans are a threat to galactic peace. They refuse to submit to council authority. They expand without permission, and their military tactics are unconventional." "Unconventional is a kind word for it," added Ambassador Veltar of the Trade Federation. Her blue skin shifted color with emotion, cycling through worried purples and angry reds. "They don't follow the established rules of warfare. In their conflict with the Zelkari pirates, they didn't just defeat them. They hunted down every last ship, even the ones that surrendered. They showed no mercy. And their expansion rate is impossible," General Throck continued. "No species has ever colonized so many worlds so quickly. They seem to adapt to any environment. Desert worlds, ice planets, gas giant moons, even worlds with toxic atmospheres. Nothing stops them." Keeper floated closer to the center of the chamber, his ancient form radiating an aura that made several species instinctively step back. "You describe exactly what the warnings spoke of. The humans are not like other species. They are not even like other predator species. They are something else entirely." "Elaborate," commanded Zethkar, though his crystalline body betrayed nervousness. Small fractures of light dancing across his surface. The archivist's form grew brighter, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eons. 57,000 years ago, A great civilization ruled this galaxy. They called themselves the Precursors, though their true name is lost to time. They were advanced beyond our current understanding, capable of moving stars and creating life itself. The chamber had gone completely silent now. Even the most skeptical delegates leaned forward to listen. The Precursors explored every corner of the galaxy, cataloging species, guiding evolution, preventing cosmic catastrophes. They were gardeners on a galactic scale. But in their explorations, they found something that terrified them. On a small blue world orbiting a yellow star, they discovered a species unlike any other. "The early humans," whispered someone in the crowd. Yes, but they were not yet truly human. They were still primitive, barely beyond stone tools. Yet the Precursors saw something in them that made even their advanced minds recoil. They saw potential, terrible, magnificent potential. Keeper's form began to shift, creating holographic images as he spoke. The Precursors ran simulations, millions of them. In every scenario where humans reached the stars, the same thing happened. They spread. They adapted. They conquered. Not through evil or malice, but through an unstoppable drive to survive and grow that nothing in the galaxy could match. The images showed various alien worlds, each one eventually populated by human settlements. The simulations ran faster, showing centuries passing in seconds. Human ships spread like a tide across the galaxy, not destroying other species but absorbing them, learning from them, becoming stronger. So the Precursors made a choice, Keeper continued. They could destroy the humans while they were still primitive, or they could contain them. Being gardeners at heart, they chose containment. They placed barriers around the Sol system, warnings in every language they knew. They even seeded legends and myths among younger species, hoping that future civilizations would remember to stay away. But the barriers failed, observed Ambassador Veltar. The Precursors themselves failed, Keeper corrected. They grew old, transcended to other planes of existence, or simply vanished. Their technology broke down over time. The barriers weakened, and eventually, the humans broke free. General Throck's patience had reached its limit. Even if this tale is true, it changes nothing. The humans are a threat now. They must be stopped before they spread further. You think they can be stopped? Keeper asked, and something in his tone made the temperature in the chamber seem to drop. Of course they can, Zethkar declared. They are barely 200 years into space travel. They have no allies among the major powers. We have fleets that outnumber theirs 1,000 to 1. Show them, Keeper said to the chamber's central computer. Show them what happened to the last civilization that tried to stop them. The holographic displays changed, showing historical records from the Galactic Archive. Images of a proud warrior species called the Dominion appeared, along with reports of a brief conflict with human colonies. The Dominion attacked a human mining operation 23 years ago, Keeper narrated. They expected easy victory against primitive humans. They destroyed 3 human ships and killed nearly 1,000 colonists. Do you know what the humans did in response? The images showed the aftermath. Human fleets, moving with precision that defied understanding, had systematically dismantled every Dominion military installation within 50 light years. Not destroyed, dismantled. Taken apart piece by piece and studied. They didn't just win, Keeper continued. They learned. They adapted Dominion technology to their own designs, improved it, and added it to their arsenal. The Dominion still exists, but they learned to fear humans. They learned that attacking humanity means giving humans new ways to become stronger. This is different, protested General Throck, but his voice lacked conviction. We are not some minor warrior race. We represent the combined might of the entire galaxy. And that is exactly what makes this so dangerous, Keeper replied. You plan to unite against them, to show them the power of the galactic community. You think this will intimidate them into submission. But you don't understand what you're dealing with. The archivist's form began to fade, as if the effort of speaking for so long was draining him. Humans don't respond to threats the way other species do. They don't calculate odds or consider surrender. When threatened, they innovate. They adapt. They find ways to turn your own strength against you. You're asking us to do nothing, accused Ambassador Veltar, to let them continue expanding until they control the entire galaxy. I'm asking you to remember why the warnings existed, Keeper replied. I'm asking you to consider that perhaps the precursors were right to be afraid. But the damage was done. The fear in the chamber had transformed into anger, and angry beings rarely listen to wisdom. Zethkar raised his manipulator arm again, calling for order. We have heard the honored archivist's concerns, he announced, but we cannot let fear of ancient myths guide our decisions. The human threat is real and present. They must be brought under council authority or removed entirely. The vote that followed was swift and decisive. 3,000 species voted to authorize military action against human space. Only a handful of abstentions were recorded, mostly from species too small or too old to risk angering the majority. As the chamber emptied and delegates hurried away to prepare their fleets, Keeper remained floating in the center of the vast space. A junior archivist approached him, her young form barely visible compared to his ancient radiance. Master, should we warn them? Should we tell the humans what's coming? Keeper's laugh was like the sound of solar wind through cosmic dust. Child, the humans already know. They've been watching this meeting through their spy networks, listening to our communications, learning about our military capabilities. By the time our fleets reach their space, they'll be ready. Then why didn't you try harder to stop the vote? Because it wouldn't have mattered. The galaxy has made its choice. Now we can only watch and see whether the ancient warnings were right. The junior archivist was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. What do you think will happen? Keeper began to fade away, preparing to return to the archive where he would record these events for future civilizations to study. His final words echoed through the empty chamber. I think the galaxy is about to learn why the precursors were afraid. In the depths of space, human monitoring stations had indeed recorded every word of the council meeting. The information flowed through quantum communicators to Earth, to the colonies, to the exploration fleets pushing ever outward into the galaxy. Humanity now knew that the galaxy considered them a threat. They also knew they had very little time to prepare for what was coming. But what the Galactic Council didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this possibility since the day they first detected alien signals. They had hoped for peace, worked toward cooperation, but they had never stopped planning for war. The ancient warnings had been right about one thing: humans were different. And that difference was about to be demonstrated on a galactic scale. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Olympus Station, humanity's most advanced military facility, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Around her, holographic displays showed the movement of alien fleets throughout the galaxy. Red markers indicated hostile forces, and there were far too many of them. "Final count, Admiral," reported Commander Torres from his position at the tactical station. "Confirmed fleet movements from 147 different species. Total estimated ships, approximately 50,000, ranging from destroyers to dreadnoughts. And our forces? 312 active warships, with another 87 in various stages of construction. The civilian evacuation fleet adds another 2,000 vessels. But they're not combat capable." The numbers were staggering. Humanity was outnumbered more than 150 to 1. In any conventional analysis, this was suicide. Earth's population was already being evacuated to the outer colonies, just in case the unthinkable happened. But Admiral Chen wasn't thinking conventionally. She was thinking like a human. "Status report on Project Prometheus?" Dr. Elizabeth Nakamura looked up from her research console, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept in days. The technology integration is complete. We've successfully combined Zelkari shield generators with Keth plasma cannons and Vrex navigation systems. Our new ships are, well, they're unlike anything that's ever been built. Show me. The main display changed to show a human shipyard orbiting one of Saturn's moons. What they saw defied every principle of ship design that any galactic civilization had ever used. The vessels being constructed were asymmetrical, covered in mismatched technology from dozens of different species, with weapon systems that seemed to have been cobbled together from spare parts. "They look like junk," muttered one of the junior officers. "That's the point," Admiral Chen replied. "Every time someone has attacked us, we've studied their technology, learned from it, and made it better. These ships represent 50 years of continuous improvement, using the best innovations from every species we've encountered." Commander Torres pulled up the specifications. "Each vessel carries weapons that can adapt their frequency to penetrate any known shield configuration. Their armor is a composite that becomes stronger under stress. And their AI systems—" He paused, looking uncomfortable. "What about the AI systems?" Chen prompted. "They learn from combat in real time. Each engagement makes them smarter, faster, more efficient. Admiral, these aren't just ships. They're evolution in action." Dr. Nakamura nodded grimly. "We've also completed the other projects. Project Cerberus has produced autonomous defense platforms that can be deployed in any star system within hours. Project Phoenix has given us manufacturing capabilities that can build replacement fleets faster than anyone imagined possible. And Project Hydra?" "What's Project Hydra?" asked Torres. Admiral Chen answered, "Something we hope we never have to use. Dr. Nakamura, how long until the alien fleets reach our outer territories?" "First contact in 72 hours. The Hegemony fleet will hit our mining operations in the Ross system first. They're bringing everything they have. Then it's time to send a message. Commander Torres, signal the Ross system. Tell them to evacuate all personnel except the volunteer defense crews and activate the Cerberus platforms." Meanwhile, in the vast emptiness between stars, the greatest armada in galactic history was bearing down on human space. General Throck commanded the lead elements, his massive hegemony dreadnought surrounded by 1,000 escort vessels. Behind them, stretched across dozens of light years, came the combined fleets of the galaxy. "Target acquired," reported his tactical officer. "Human mining facility in the Ross system. Minimal defenses detected. This should be simple." General Throck's species had been warriors for 10,000 years. They had conquered dozens of systems and defeated hundreds of enemies. To him, this was just another routine military operation. "All ships, maintain formation. We'll make this quick and clean. Destroy the facility, eliminate any human vessels, and move on to the next target." But as they approached the Ross system, something unexpected happened. The human facility didn't try to flee or surrender. Instead, it began to transform. Hidden panels opened to reveal weapon systems. Defensive barriers materialized out of what appeared to be empty space. And most disturbing of all, the facility began to grow. "Sir, the human base is expanding. It's deploying additional structures faster than our sensors can track." "Impossible! How do you deploy fixed fortifications in the middle of combat?" The answer came in the form of Cerberus platforms. Humanity had learned from the Nexus Coalition how to build self-assembling technology. They had learned from the Virax how to hide structures in dimensional pockets. They had learned from the Eldorans how to manipulate matter at the molecular level. Combined, these technologies allowed humans to deploy entire fortified star bases in minutes. "Sir, new contacts. Multiple ships decloaking around the system perimeter." The human defense fleet materialized like ghosts becoming solid. 30 vessels against 1,000 should have been laughable. But these weren't ordinary ships. They moved with impossible coordination, their weapons firing in patterns that seemed to defy physics. The first hegemony destroyer to come within range simply disintegrated. Its shields offered no protection against weapons that cycled through every known energy frequency. Its armor, rated to withstand direct hits from plasma cannons, melted like ice under a focused beam that somehow knew exactly which molecular bonds to break. "Return fire! All ships engage!" But the human ships were already gone, having used Vrek's dimensional manipulation technology to slip between layers of space. They reappeared behind the hegemony formation, their weapons now adapted to counter the specific shield frequencies the aliens were using. General Throck watched in growing horror as his 1,000-ship fleet began to fall apart, not destroyed, but systematically dismantled. Human tractor beams, enhanced with technology from a dozen different species, were literally pulling alien ships apart and studying the pieces even as the battle raged. "This is impossible! They can't be adapting this quickly!" But they were. Each destroyed alien ship provided new data, new technologies, new ways for the human vessels to improve themselves. The battle wasn't just a fight, it was a learning experience. Within 6 hours, the Great Hegemony fleet was reduced to debris and escape pods. The humans had lost 4 ships and suffered minor damage to 3 others. But more importantly, they had acquired detailed knowledge of how hegemony technology worked. The news of the defeat spread through the alien alliance like wildfire. What should have been an easy victory had turned into a catastrophe. But instead of retreating, the galactic forces pressed forward. Surely this had been a fluke. They were wrong. The next engagement came in the Kepler system, where a coalition of Trade Federation vessels encountered human colonists. The humans had exactly 12 military ships to defend 3 colony worlds. The aliens brought 400. This time, the humans tried something new. They had learned from the Krell about biological warfare, but they had adapted it in a way no other species had ever conceived. Instead of targeting living beings, they targeted technology. Nanoscale organisms, designed by human biotechnology and dispersed through space, began to infect alien computer systems. These weren't viruses in the traditional sense. They were living creatures that fed on electronic signals and reproduced by converting matter into more of themselves. Within hours, the coalition fleet was flying blind as their computers began to literally dissolve. Ships drifted helplessly as their navigation systems became food for organisms that had never existed before. The human colonists, watching from their worlds below, weren't celebrating victory. They were taking notes, learning everything they could about how different species designed their technology, preparing for the next wave of attacks. Back in the galactic capital, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. What had been planned as a quick demonstration of power was turning into a nightmare. "How?" Ambassador Zethkar demanded. "How are they winning?" "They're not just winning," corrected a military analyst. "They're learning. Every engagement makes them stronger. They take our technology, improve it, and use it against us. Then we hit them with everything at once. No more small engagements. We combine all our forces and crush them before they can adapt." It was exactly the wrong decision, but it was the only one that made sense to minds that thought in conventional terms. The alien alliance began massing every available warship for one final, overwhelming assault on Earth itself. But the humans had been watching, learning, preparing. They knew this moment would come. And they had plans that would have horrified the precursors themselves. In the depths of human space, Project Hydra was finally activated. Manufacturing facilities that had been hidden throughout the solar system began working at impossible speeds, not building ships this time, but something far more ambitious. They were building a new kind of human. Dr. Nakamura's hands shook as she initiated the final sequences. "Admiral, are we sure about this? Once we cross this line, there's no going back." Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing 50,000 alien ships approaching Earth. The line was crossed when they decided we were too dangerous to exist. Now we show them what dangerous really means. The first enhanced humans emerged from the biolabs 12 hours later. They looked human, but they had been modified with technology and biological improvements learned from every species humanity had ever encountered. They could survive in the vacuum of space like the Nexus machines, adapt to any environment like the Eldarins, and process information faster than quantum computers. They were no longer entirely human. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, and they were just the beginning. The final battle for Earth began on a Tuesday. 50,000 alien warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their combined firepower capable of searing the surface off planets. Leading them was the Eternal Dominion, a super dreadnought built by the combined efforts of 20 different species. It was 10 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack moons, and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. Admiral Zethkar stood on its bridge, surrounded by the greatest military minds in the galaxy. This time, there would be no mistakes. They would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers, destroy their homeworld, and end the threat once and for all. "All ships report ready," announced the fleet coordinator. "No sign of human defensive forces. They appear to be hiding behind their inner planets." "Cowards," muttered General Throck. "They know they cannot win." But Keeper, who had been brought along as an observer, floated silently in the corner of the bridge, his ancient form flickering with worry. He had tried one last time to convince the fleet to turn back, but no one would listen. They thought they understood what they were facing. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Contact!" The sensor operator's voice cracked with disbelief. "Ships decloaking throughout the system, but that's impossible. The readings don't make sense." On the tactical display, human vessels began to appear. Not hundreds or thousands, but millions of them. They materialized from what appeared to be empty space, emerging from dimensional folds that shouldn't have been able to hold anything larger than a fighter craft. "How many ships are we detecting?" Zethkar demanded. "Current count, 6,400,000 and climbing. Sir, they're still appearing. Our sensors can't keep track of them all." But these weren't just ships. As the alien fleet watched in growing horror, they realized they were looking at something that defied everything they knew about space warfare. The human vessels were alive. They moved like living creatures, flowing through space with organic grace. Their hulls rippled and shifted, adapting their configuration for different combat situations. Weapons emerged from surfaces that had appeared smooth moments before, and most disturbing of all, the ships seemed to be communicating with each other through some form of biological networking. "Admiral Chen," came a voice over the communication system, but it wasn't coming from any ship. It seemed to be coming from space itself. "I am Designation, Fleet Consciousness Alpha. We are the defenders of humanity. You have come to destroy our home. This cannot be permitted." General Throck stepped forward. "We are the combined military might of the entire galaxy. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." The response was laughter. Not human laughter, but something else entirely. The sound of a predator that had just realized its prey had walked into its territory. "You still don't understand," the voice replied. "You came here thinking you would fight humans, but we are no longer entirely human. We are what humans become when they are pushed beyond all limits." The alien fleet opened fire first, unleashing concentrated destruction that should have sterilized entire star systems. Energy beams that could melt planets, missile volleys that could shatter asteroids, exotic weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. None of it mattered. The human bioships didn't just absorb the attacks. They fed on them. Energy weapons were converted into fuel for their biological systems. Kinetic projectiles were caught and incorporated into their hulls as additional armor. Exotic radiation was processed and used to power new defensive systems that emerged in real time. "Impossible!" Zethkar screamed. "Nothing can adapt that quickly." But the humans had learned from every species they had ever encountered. From the Vrex, they had gained the ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level. From the Nexus Coalition, they had learned to merge biological and technological systems. From the Eldorans, they had gained the wisdom to see patterns across vast scales of time and space. From hundreds of other species, they had acquired capabilities that no single civilization had ever possessed. Combined with human ingenuity, human determination, and human refusal to accept defeat, these abilities had created something unprecedented in galactic history. The counterattack began with surgical precision. Human bioships flowed through the alien formation like schools of predatory fish, their weapons specifically calibrated to exploit weaknesses in each species' technology. Vrex crystalline hulls shattered under sonic frequencies that resonated with their molecular structure. Hegemony armor plating dissolved under engineered bacteria that fed specifically on the alloys they used. Nexus Coalition machine intelligence was overwhelmed by quantum viruses that turned their own computing power against them. But the humans weren't trying to destroy the alien fleet entirely. They were learning from it. Each disabled ship was swarmed by specialized biovessels that extracted every piece of useful technology, every innovation, every advancement that could be integrated into human capabilities. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the greatest military force in galactic history had been reduced to escape pods and debris. But more importantly, humanity had just absorbed the technological knowledge of 3,000 different species. They were no longer just human. They had become something else, something that incorporated the best aspects of every civilization they had encountered, enhanced by human creativity and drive. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, now dead in space with its crew rescued by human bioships, Zethkar faced the truth that he had refused to accept. "What have we done?" he whispered. Keeper's ancient form materialized beside him. "You have created exactly what the precursors feared. You have forced humanity to evolve beyond their natural limits. You have made them into the ultimate adaptive species. But what do they want? What will they do to us?" The answer came from Fleet Consciousness Alpha, its voice now carrying harmonics from 1,000 different species, including their own. "We want what we have always wanted, to survive, to grow, to explore, to learn. You tried to destroy us, so we learned to defend ourselves. You brought us the technology of 3,000 species, so we learned to use it. You forced us to evolve, so we evolved. And now? Now we do what humans have always done. We adapt to our new situation. The galaxy tried to kill us, so the galaxy becomes part of us, not through conquest, but through integration. We offer every species a choice. Join us and help us explore the universe beyond this galaxy, or be left behind to stagnate in your old ways." The transformation had already begun. On worlds throughout human space, representatives from the defeated alien fleet were being introduced to the new hybrid civilization that humanity had become. They were shown technologies that merged their own innovations with human creativity, producing possibilities that none of them had imagined alone. Some species chose to join the human collective, adding their knowledge and perspectives to the growing hybrid civilization. Others chose to remain independent, but found themselves gradually being left behind as the human-led alliance expanded beyond the galaxy itself. The Vrex Empire, faced with technology that made their crystal manipulation abilities look primitive, voted to integrate their entire civilization into the human collective. The Nexus Coalition, impressed by biotechnological computers that thought in ways their digital minds couldn't comprehend, merged their consciousness with human AI systems to create something entirely new. The peaceful Eldorans, who had remained neutral throughout the conflict, approached the humans with a simple request. Take us with you when you leave this galaxy. We have learned all we can here. Show us what lies beyond. General Throck, his warrior culture faced with an enemy that turned conflict into evolution, asked to join the human military. His species' knowledge of warfare, combined with human adaptability, would create the most effective peacekeeping force the universe had ever seen. Even the Trade Federation, led by Ambassador Veltar, discovered that human economic principles could transform their simple commerce into something approaching art, markets that adapted in real time, currencies that evolved to meet changing needs, trade networks that spanned not just space, but time itself. But not everyone chose integration. The old Galactic Council, led by species that couldn't adapt to the new reality, retreated to the galactic core. They established barriers around their territories and declared that they wanted nothing to do with the human hybrid civilization. The humans respected their choice. They had learned that forced evolution led only to stagnation and resentment. Instead, they turned their attention to the spaces between galaxies, to dimensions beyond normal space-time, to possibilities that no one had ever dreamed of exploring. 5 years after the final battle, Keeper found himself aboard a human exploration vessel, preparing to leave the galaxy entirely. The ship was unlike anything that had ever been built. It incorporated technologies from thousands of species, powered by energy sources that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and crewed by beings that represented the evolutionary potential of dozens of different forms of life. "Do you regret it?" asked the ship's consciousness, speaking with Admiral Chen's voice but carrying the harmonic undertones of the collective hybrid intelligence. "Do you regret not stopping us when you could have?" Keeper's ancient form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Child, you couldn't have been stopped. The precursors knew that. They didn't mark your world as dangerous because they thought you were evil. They marked it because they knew that one day someone would be foolish enough to provoke you into becoming what you've become. And what have we become? The next step. The precursors evolved beyond physical existence. You've evolved beyond species barriers. You've become something that incorporates the best aspects of biological and technological intelligence, individual creativity and collective wisdom, peaceful cooperation, and determined defense." The ship's sensors detected the edge of the galaxy approaching. Beyond lay the vast emptiness of intergalactic space, and beyond that, other galaxies filled with species and civilizations that humanity had never encountered. The warnings spoke of humans spreading across the galaxy, Keeper continued. "But they never imagined this. You didn't conquer the galaxy. You transformed it. You didn't destroy other species. You gave them the choice to evolve beyond their limitations. Some chose to remain behind," the ship's consciousness observed. "And that's their right. Evolution can't be forced. It can only be offered." As the ship crossed into intergalactic space, its sensors picked up signals from distant galaxies. Radio transmissions, energy signatures, and quantum communications that suggested the universe was far more populated than anyone had imagined. New civilizations to meet, the ship's consciousness mused. New technologies to learn. New challenges to face. "And if they're hostile?" Keeper asked. The response came not just from the ship's consciousness, but from the collective voice of 6 billion humans and representatives of 3,000 alien species, all working together as a single hybrid civilization. Then they'll learn the same lesson this galaxy did. You can try to destroy humanity, but all you'll accomplish is teaching us how to become something stronger than what we were before. The ship accelerated away from the galaxy, carrying with it the combined knowledge and dreams of thousands of species. Behind them, the Milky Way continued to turn, now home to a peaceful alliance of those who had chosen to work together rather than fight. and in the deepest archives of the old Galactic Council, new warnings were being written. Not about the danger of provoking humanity, but about the consequences of refusing to evolve when the universe offered you the chance. The ancient warnings had been right. Humanity was dangerous. But they had been dangerous in a way that no one expected. They were dangerous because they offered hope. They were dangerous because they proved that different species could work together. They were dangerous because they showed that evolution didn't have to mean conquest. They were dangerous because they made the impossible seem inevitable. And now they were heading toward new galaxies, carrying that dangerous hope with them, ready to offer the same choice to every civilization they encountered, evolve together or be left behind. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place.